Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast, is in no way affiliated with the band. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the speaker's own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast. We're here with your typical trio from here in the U.S., here to talk the time away with all things Level 42, the convivial Mr. Mikey Payne. Welcome and hello.
Hello, and Bob, I'm still in the doghouse from the last episode.
Well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
The irrepressible Winston M. Walker, Win Man with many faces and many names. Welcome and hello.
Just Winston, and still here. Thank you. Hello.
And I'm Bob Considine, also saying hello to all the Level 42 fans out there, both past, current, and future from all over the world. We very much appreciate you being here, and thanks for all the support everyone has been continuing to give us on all the different podcast channels and on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Please give us a listen and a like with your listens. Always appreciated. Or a follow, too. We'll take it. Gentlemen, great to talk to you guys again. I think we should get right to it with our special guests, because they are largely responsible for the curation and the production of 3 very quality Level 42 box sets over the past few years. We're talking about 2 fabulous 10 CD versions of Level 42, the Complete Polydor Years, and the more recent 7 CD version of Level 42, the later years. These guys have been major fans of Level 42, and of course good friends to 3 of us, and so many in the Level 42 community for decades, really, including the band members themselves, I should say. They are Mr. Paul Waller and Mr. Simon Carson. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks not only for being here, but just for all the work you put in on these box sets and for your part in really keeping this music alive. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd just like to say what a great job you guys are doing. It's absolutely brilliant. It's to finally have a Level 42 podcast. Wow. And with Mark's blessing as well, which is amazing.
It is amazing.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks. I'm shocked that no one did this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I won't be shocked that nobody does it again.
Can't top this quality. Why would you bother?
Right.
Yeah.
And we should thank Paul, because I think, Winston, you can correct me on this, Paul is largely responsible for all the artwork that we provide with the podcast every week, correct?
That is correct.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
He did that original design, and I just keep bastardizing it each week.
All right, so listen, we got a lot to get to through these guys in terms of the box sets, but I'm going to backtrack to Paul's 2017 book, just because I've always wanted to ask this and I never have. I mean, I don't think I have, Paul. The book, of course, is Level 42, Worldwide Visual Discography, which is not only fantastic, but I would argue it might be the most comprehensive and exhaustive account of any band's audio output in the history of books. It's 272 pages of everything. So I always want to know, Paul, in the years you were working on that book, and you finally get it to the publisher, were you able to, send it to the publisher without that feeling of, oh my God, what am I missing? What have I done? Because I would keep
Yeah, I was remembering, because obviously I knew we might be talking about it today, and I was remembering Simon and I went to a gig at Dingwalls in London, literally the day or a couple of days before it went to print the first edition. And I think that day I'd actually travelled down to London from Newcastle, which is like about 3 hours on the train. And Simon was like correcting the book. He was proofreading it. I mean, Simon is the absolute font of all knowledge for Level 42. So I was very lucky to have Simon helping me on the book, and what a great job. I mean, it's our book. It's not just my book.
Right.
But I think on the train on the way down, I made about 4 pages of like corrections. And I mean, we're talking like sort of forensic level corrections,
right.
But important to like anoraks like Simon and I and other collectors, I guess. And I just remember we went to the gig and we got to the hotel and we got to like, you know, the end of the night kind of thing. I was like, this has to stop. We just have to stop changing these little things. And it was like, I think there was probably one tiny thing, and Simon will probably remember what it was, but I don't. And we just didn't have time to correct that. I mean, nobody is ever going to notice what it was. If they do, there's a prize.
I'm going to find it. I got the book right here.
Yeah, all right, but go on, crack on. And we I'll just wait. Go on, you go. But yeah, we had to go to print with the first edition. But I remember the second edition. I was in Spain on business, and let's just say I'd had a heavy night the night before, a few beers and things, and I got up the next morning and. I realised that we in fact no, this was the first edition. This was the very first edition because we put everybody's name in the back of the book, and right. I'd sent it off to the printers, and I'd missed somebody's name out or two people's names out, and it was like, so I wasn't in the best state because I'd had a few beers the night before, and I had about an hour before I had a work meeting, a really important work meeting. So it was a real panic that morning, just making that correction, but. I think we made a few little corrections, the ones I mentioned for the soft cover, if that's right.
Yeah, there was some changes made,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. You guys did an awesome job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you had some changes, so...
well, there's always going to be some changes.
I don't have... Exactly, I love that.
There was never some sorrows.
Yeah, plug.
Yeah.
So basically, my hardcover... is now lesser than the soft cover. How do I get another copy?
I don't know. I think I've got some here. I shouldn't say that publicly, should I?
Well, no, because basically, I mean, I know a lot of people missed the boat on getting the book.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if it was possible, if the gods allow more to be printed, they'll go.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing. It sits, it's a coffee table book. It sits on my coffee table.
Thank you.
Same here.
Kind of peruse it, and it's just like that Bible of that cool band that we all love.
So, Absolutely.
Because a question came up the other day, as a matter of fact, just quickly, where someone had used the Level 42 logo from the I think it was a Star Child single, one with the big 4-2 in blue, the big V. And I think Mikey asked me, he's like, didn't you do that logo years ago, Winston? And I said,
no. Love Games, isn't it? Is that Love Games?
Love Games.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I was like, that's actually an official logo.
Yeah.
But I might have put it on one of my bootleg cassettes or something. So someone, Mikey might have thought, I did that. I'm like, I wish I could design something like that.
Yeah.
But I quickly went to the book, took a picture, and sent it to him.
Well, do you know what it is, Winston? I remember you asking me to redraw that, and I did that because you had a friend who had a laser cutter or laser printer or something,
right.
And you wanted to get some coasters or something made, and
yes,
yeah. And I was always like your go-to when you wanted something drawing or something like that. So I remember tracing that logo, and that actual logo that I did for you was the one that I actually used on the box set. So. It's kind of good, really, because I cut down a bit of the workload by doing that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Should we transition to the box?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So before we jump in there, I'm just going to ask one question to both of you. I think I know Paul's answer. I don't know Simon's, but I think folks listening always like to know this simple thing. For both of you, what was the song or the album that made you a fan of the band?
I'll let Simon go first with that one.
Mine was Lessons in Love. I kind of discovered it by accident, really. I had one of those now, that's what I call music compilations, and it was number 7 in the series at the time. And I was just playing a few tracks, and it was on there, and I thought, this sounds good. And the timing of that was sort of early 87. So Running in the Family was coming out, and they were on UK TV a lot. So it all sort of came together around about that time for me. So that was the one that got me into them big time.
Yeah, mine was 85, and it was Something About You. So I used to listen to a radio show. I think it was called Hits Not Homework. It was
Oh
aimed at
wow.
like teenagers kind of thing who should have been doing the homework. But but I was listening to all the stuff from that year. You know, so Level 42. What else was out that year? Some great stuff out that year.
Yeah.
One of my favorite years of music, but I think probably because of Something About You. And there was a guy called Nicky Brown on Metro FM, which was the radio station, and he used to play it. And then he got Mark King on, and I think what I gravitated to, like when I heard Mark, was just his sense of humor. It was brilliant. And he made some jokes which are very rude jokes, and I'll not repeat. But like in 1985, he managed to get away with them.
Right.
But it was based around words with the word "king" on the end. That's all I'm going to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not
Make a joke.
surprised. Mark
Yeah.
always did some risque stuff on live shows. So.
Yeah, but I had a friend. I had two friends, Nick and Glenn, who they were big fans. And Nick's older brother, Peter, was this phenomenal bass player, and he was into like sort of George Clinton, Funkadelic, Parliament, all of that kind of P-funk stuff, you know. And he was a massive Level 42 fan. So I remember going around Nick's house, and Peter came in with his JD, and he was just slapping all these Level 42 songs out that I'd never heard. And it was just like, that was the point. It was like, oh, got to get all of these, you know. So it was like, I think originally Peter loaned me all of his vinyl, and I listened to them. And then my first album was that World Machine cassette with all the B-sides on. The B-side, the bonus B-side were Love Games, Hot Water, 12-inch, Sleep on My Heart. Oh, what an album. Yeah.
We always think people in the UK are like, oh, they knew about Level 42 way before we did. And actually, Winston probably knew about it before you did. Because
absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's just because he's very old. That's what that is.
That is true. But I look at both of you guys as being so knowledgeable about the band, so I make that assumption. Because I think I spoke to Paul on the phone maybe a year ago, and we had met in person, you know, a few times, and it never came up in conversation. And so when you told me something about you, I'm like, what? Like, I thought you would have been there before they released the first demo, you know, because you know everything, you collected all the records. So, but that's awesome, because there's always in fandom, there's always that, oh, I knew this, you know, I saw this movie years before you did, or I was into this band. None of that crap matters.
Right.
You know, like someone that finds this band tomorrow and falls in love with it, that doesn't make them less of a fan. You know,
absolutely.
Don't put, can't put like, you know, standings on love of anything.
But I think, you know, since you and I started talking, Winston, like all the stuff you like Chic and Weather Report and stuff, you got me into all of those guys, you know, like Jaco Pastorius, and amazing.
Right. And most of that stuff I wasn't into, but when I was in the military, my horizons were really broadened by guys that I met from all over the country. And, you know, one guy was really into Gino Vanelli, who for me was like, that guy like sings love songs. Like, why do you like that?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you listen to his early stuff, it's like jazz fusion stuff.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And another guy was in the Weather Report, who was the drummer in our band at the time. So, and it's just like, and then you kind of just spread that out to all your other friends, you know? So kind of cool. So like I said, I was talking to our common friend, Ray Prasad, this morning. Told him we were doing this. And, you know, his first question was, well, how long did it take to get these things done, start to finish? But also, how did you guys become involved with this project?
Right. Well, so we had COVID, we had the lockdown pandemic, and I remember like Mark there's lots of people doing very generous things during lockdown to sort of keep people entertained while they were stuck in the houses. And I remember Mark putting a lot of demos out, stuff that I'd wanted to hear for years, like the 80s and things like that, and stuff we'd never heard before, which was like phenomenal. It was like a whole album's worth of stuff he put out,
which was amazing.
Really, really great.
Right.
And I made a PDF of the book, and I put that on Twitter, as it was called then. And I put that up as a free download. And it was just, here's a book, enjoy it, download it, and just left it and just let it go, let it do its thing. And then I got an email or either a message on Twitter, possibly from a guy called Paul, and he was a Level 42 fan, but he's also probably the biggest Shakin' Stevens fan that I've ever met as well, and that's his that's his main interest. But he'd made a comment. I think Universal had put a 3 CD box set out. What was that one called, Simon? Do you remember the
I think it was just called the Essential, wasn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was that one it was in all the supermarkets, wasn't it? It was like a 3 CD fold out thing. Yeah. So, Polydor obviously did a great job with Level 42 in the catalogue, but they tended to always make the odd little mistake, which used to sort of irk the fans. And it was always it was To Be With You Again. It was the remix of that, the ADSC mix and stuff, and they used to always put it on a box set kind of thing, but it was never the actual remix. It was always the dub. So they used to always make this mistake. And
it's maddening.
So Paul had put a comment on the Twitter post when they denounced it, saying, "I hope it's the proper version." And this chap called Steve Hammonds from Universal Music had got in touch with Paul and said, "Oh, so you're a bit of a fan then?" And Paul was like, "No, yeah." And he said, "Oh, we're doing this box set with Cherry Red Records, and we sort of need a fan's kind of insight to make sure we get things right." And I don't think I'm doing Paul a disservice. I think he'll admit that someone like Simon has got much superior knowledge to his. If it was Shakin' Stevens, we'd be laughing kind of thing. But I think Level 42, he kind of quickly got out of his depth. So he was sending me emails back and forth, and just questions about this, questions about that. And then I think he sort of did realize that he was kind of drowning in all this stuff. And I said, "Look, I'm more than happy to get on board, but I want to get Simon on board as well, because Simon just knows so much more than me. The level of detail that Simon knows is just incredible." So the three of us were sort of introduced to Steve at Universal, and it just kind of went from there. Do you want to sort of take over, Simon?
Yeah, it's as sort of what Paul said. Paul emailed me to say that Paul Wallace had gotten in touch over this box set and asked would we be interested in helping out. So we both quickly said yes. And because I'd worked on the 2000 remasters with Ian Buck, I still had a copy of the archive listings. So I knew where a lot of the stuff was if they couldn't find it. So it was a combination of that, plus obviously Paul's experience in doing the artwork side that sort of got us involved with it.
Yeah.
So it kind of went from there, really. I mean, Paul Wallace had actually done a provisional track listing. He'd sort of listed all the songs that he was aware of. There was a few bits missing, which we quickly sort of put right. But a lot of it had already been requested at that point, and so we were kind of limited as to what we could add. I mean, we were also told that there was sort of no demos or anything like that could be used. It was all stuff that had been previously released. There was a couple of things that we couldn't get due to licensing, which is a whole strange thing in itself. You think, well, why can't we have that if it's been out on elsewhere? But it's just one of those things, unfortunately. So it sort of took off then. I mean, I remember getting the email from Paul around about August 2020.
Yeah.
It was around about that time, and then it just sort of started to take off from there.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting. I mean, like Simon said, he did all of the 2000 reissues, so he was sort of he had access to the vault kind of thing. It was if you can imagine sort of Prince's vault, but the Level 42 equivalent. Simon's been there, and so Simon knew everything that was in there, and there's still stuff in there that we're desperate to get out, but that's another podcast, I think. But even just finding the stuff, Simon, wasn't it? It was I mean, you know, I didn't do any of that side. My side was very much the artwork, and yeah, Simon did all of the sort of digging and looking through the boxes and things and finding things. But yeah, it was just phenomenal, that wasn't it, Simon? The stuff,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, just yeah.
Wow.
So wait a minute, you guys would, or Simon, you would actually look through boxes. Where were these boxes?
No, I wouldn't look through boxes, but I had the listing of all
I
the
see.
tape box numbers and what was
Yeah.
in them and
I got you.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could have gone to the archive, but
Yeah,
I mean, I was sort of back in the 2000 era. Me and Ian Buck were lucky to go to where they had a lot of the video stuff back in 1997, which wasn't far from Heathrow Airport.
Mhm.
And we were just sort of this was with Paul Crockford's permission. We were able to look and see what was in there, but there was a lot of stuff that was it was still in like original negative form. So to get stuff like that, it unfortunately costs money. So we couldn't get it.
Is that stuff still around?
I mean, there was cans and cans of all the fait accompli stuff and all that, you know. So it was just unbelievable. But we couldn't watch it. It was you could see the negative, but that's it. You know, if you wanted to transfer, and it would have cost an arm and a leg to get done. So
yeah. This was all like pre-digital, wasn't it? Or
Yeah,
was it just
exactly, yeah.
kind of yeah.
it'd be a lot
Hopefully they
easier now.
digitized it before it, you know, crashed.
You guys brought up our late great friend Ian Buck.
Yes, Ian Buck. I was just going to say,
And that could be a whole other podcast too of adventures with Ian Buck, I think.
Yeah.
In fact, that led me to my question. I know our own Winston Walker and Simon and Carl Mueller and Ian were responsible for the 2000 reissues that were considered the reissues then.
Yeah.
And I obviously know the difference between those reissue series and this incredible box sets that you guys have put out. Just incredible. Thank you for doing that. What were the differences? I know with the original reissues, it wasn't everyone's contributions that I think came into question. It was about the sound quality of how those discs were sonically put together. That's not the case with this current box series. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you explain for those of us who don't understand those compression, decompression things and the differences in this new box set?
Yeah, do you want to go with that one, Simon? Sorry, I'm happy to do it. Yeah, no problem. I mean, so, you know, when Level 42's catalogue was recorded, it was on analog tape, and it was for release on vinyl. It was released on cassette. Never sort of intended for the digital age because there was no digital age. So, you know, the sort of tapes that we've heard over the years, kind of thing, the master tapes and things, they're about 3 or 4 decibels off peak anyway. So they're sort of mastered quietly, so they can be sort of increased in volume, you know, for the pressing kind of thing. So they have that little bit of wiggle room. But CDs, you just didn't have the sonic limitations of vinyl. So you get a lot more bass, a lot more treble kind of thing. You know, you've got to be so careful with vinyl, and you have to actually master properly for vinyl. You have to master specifically for vinyl, I should say. And I've done a few things recently, like Phil Gould, his album. We had to get that mastered at Abbey Road and stuff, and it all had to be done properly. And you know, there's only so much you can get out of that medium. So the Level 42 stuff was all made for that medium. So it was, you know, even when the original CDs came out, the volume levels were a lot lower. But I think it was the radio stations. Correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, and I think Winston and you guys know this. It was they used to call it the loudness wars. It was kind of like all the labels were kind of going back, and they were just trying to get their records as loud as possible, the music as loud as possible.
Yep.
So that was unfortunately around the so like Simon says, this kind of brick wall where, you know, if you look at the wave of an audio file, it's supposed to sort of undulate up and down naturally, kind of thing.
Right.
This brick wall thing, it would like literally be, you know, the top of the top and the bottom of the bottom kind of thing, like absolute peaks on both, and as loud as it could possibly get.
Yeah, it looked like the Great Wall of China on a WAV file. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did,
exactly,
yeah. And the Chinese way wasn't the way to go with this music. You need to be trying sort of like, you know what I mean? I'm getting them in now. You know, I'm doing the jokes today. I've heard your jokes the last few weeks. But yeah. So I think that, well, I don't think, I know that was the reason why even like Phil Gould himself just despised them, because they were just, and it's such a shame because like John Astley, the guy who did them, such a sweet guy, he's a lovely guy, really, really talented, like, you know, engineer, producer kind of thing. But he was just doing what he was told. He was just making these things as loud as possible. And
Wow.
you know, but like all the work Simon and Ian and everybody else, Winston, you were involved, did on this project. I mean, because there was no money, was there? There was no money with this one.
No.
It was just
Less
like, I
money with this one.
remember you guys like putting your hand in your own pocket to pay for photo licensing and all this lot. So there was you know, just like the box sets, it was a labor of love, and it was done at the expense of the fans kind of thing. But you know, that's not something I would ever complain about, because it's an absolute privilege to work on this stuff, you know. But yeah, I think that was the reason behind all the sort of complaints, if you like.
Listening to the box sets now, and they sound incredible. And again, congratulations to both you, and as a friend and fan, thank you for putting this out in the universe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're welcome.
I had a question for Simon. You'd mentioned earlier, and I don't want to get too far away from it, when there were certain songs that you weren't able to get the licenses for whatever reason, even though they were out. What were them? What can you?
But they are, if you look at them in the back of the booklets on each box set, there is a list of tracks that were either unavailable or licensing. Now I know one of the tracks was piano, and we couldn't get the license for that one, which was strange. On moving forward to box set 3, there was if anyone bought the My Father's Shoes CD singles, on the CD2 you had the interview with Level 42 on there. If anyone remembers that, well, we couldn't get that either, which is, you think, well, why? It's only just sort of Mark and Mike talking, but you know,
That's right.
Licensing's a funny thing, which we've sort of found out over the last couple of years or so.
Yeah, I think that the stuff that's not on this, I'm like piano. You know, you mentioned before we didn't put the demos on. I think I don't know. Do you regard piano as a track, or do you regard that as a sort of sketch, as a demo kind of thing? And the interview, yes, it was released. Yes, it was on the CD, but it's not a track. It's not a song. You know, so it's kind of
no. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it was removed from the early tapes in the first place, wasn't it? So,
and yet, you know, you had that sort of Canadian release, didn't you, with the interview on the B side of that? And it's like, you know, I don't know. Personally, I didn't think that was a problem, not having the interviews and things on. I think it was all about the music.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the other tracks we tried to get with the Kryptonite mix of It's Over, and also the other hit combination, the one that was done for radio.
Yeah, that's right, because the Kryptonite one, you could technically argue it came out because it was like Ben Lee Brand's, and it was through
well, it's been
DMC, wasn't it?
It's on one of his series that I can't remember the name of the series.
Grand 12 inches.
That's the one.
Yeah, because there's a sort of dance version of It's Over, isn't there, that he did? Because he obviously had the stem.
Yeah, there's a later one. Yeah,
he just went to town. He did the version with was it Moments in Love, Art of Noise? Was that the one with the?
Yes.
There was that one. That
has
version,
that breathing sample.
Yeah. I'm not going to sing it, but you know what I mean.
I love that.
Well, I love the Art of Noise, so yeah, I was definitely in with that one.
Well, it was just a great, different remix. Like, I never would have expected that song to be turned that way. And it works 100%.
Well, he was way ahead of the curve there, because that was a mash, wasn't it? That was like a very early mashup. That brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I've been waiting ever since the latest box set came out, the later years. I've been wanting to ask you guys this: the two songs, "Fire" and "Free Your Soul." How did they not get there?
They weren't released. They weren't released. That was the criteria for these box sets, was they had to be released somewhere. to sort of qualify to go on them. I mean, if we went for unreleased stuff, we could have gone on forever. We've asked Mark about those tracks.
What's he say?
I'm just not sure if he knows where they are, to be honest. He's got so much stuff in the archive. But yeah, we'd love to hear them. And there's the other one, Thieving TV, and I'll not say the word. But
I've heard Zacko talk about that.
That
title a lot.
That's the one nobody's heard, but well, none of the fans have heard anyway. Yeah.
Wow. So would that be? I'm assuming that might be, if it wasn't released and they've got to license it, and it puts a whole nother cost on top of everything. Is that why?
Yeah.
I mean, there's costs with absolutely everything involved in these box sets, kind of thing. Because, if there's not a digital version of it, somebody's literally got to go and grab a tape, and that's like To Be With You Again. We can talk about that in a minute. That ADSC mix, the one we mentioned before, that was completely lost, and we've got Simon Carson to thank for finding that, because it wasn't where it was supposed to be. But that cost somebody to get out of an archive and make that digital transfer. And I've got to praise the guys who did those transfers. I mean, we got the I remember getting the Star Child and Handsome Rugged Man transfer, and what was the other one, Sam? We had It's Over, I think, didn't we? And obviously,
and then there was the Micro Kid remix as well.
And honestly, I mess about with audio files and things, but I've never seen audio files this big in my life. They were huge, and I remember there was an entire file for the left channel and an entire file for the right channel, and I think they were like a gigabyte for 5 minutes of music, whatever it was, and huge. I mean, like I said, that they really went to town with this remastering stuff. It was incredible.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about MP3 files, so that's crazy expensive.
No.
I just quickly want to say the attention to detail in these box sets is amazing.
Yeah.
They're going to be mostly Level 42 fans listening to this podcast, but there are going to be folks who are just casual fans.
There'll be UB40 fans who've misread the title of the podcast. They'll be on there as well. Yeah.
Why haven't you mentioned Red Wine?
I would just say, if you don't have these box sets and you're a fan of the band, even if you have, if you have all the albums on a vinyl or cassette, you need these box sets in your life.
Yeah.
They sound amazing. There's probably going to be things on here that you're not familiar with, because it amazes me in the different Level 42 digests that there's folks that pop up every day like, I've never heard this 30-year-old song. Like maybe it's a B-side or something. But just for the uninitiated, you're looking at, I believe each of these box sets, you're going to have all of the albums for that period.
Yeah.
A disc of 12-inch singles, a disc of 7-inch singles, a disc with B-sides, bonus tracks.
Yeah.
Because, for example, that remix of Living It Up, that
Omar.
What's his name?
Omar.
Oh, yeah.
I never heard the full version until this box set.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I saw clips of a video and a single edit. So, and I've always really liked that version.
And you call yourself a fan, Winston?
Yes, I do. I've known to be lying about something.
Yeah.
Yes, I never heard that full version. I never had. I wasn't lucky enough. To find it.
There were so many versions. Simultaneously.
I know.
How many were there, Simon? Like 5, 6?
I think there's about 7 altogether. I think there's 6 with Omar, and then there's one. There's the Tintin Out remix, which doesn't sound anything like the song at all. And there's supposed to be a dub mix of it as well, or an instrumental. And I thought, well, there's hardly any vocals in it anyway. So but we couldn't get that one. But we got all the others, which was the main thing.
I mean, when you think about it, Simon, like those remixes weren't actually. Some of them weren't technically issued, were they? So we did sneak those on, I think.
I mean, I think there was a few of them released on promo 12 inches. There was 2 promo 12 inches released at the time. And then there was going to be a commercial single release for it, and it was pulled at the last minute. Now, I don't know why that was, but some of the mixes were on there.
You've got that on vinyl, haven't you, man? I remember that.
I've got the vinyl 12 inch.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get hold of now.
To Winston's point about how good these are, if people don't have them, or, any of the three or all of the three,
Yeah.
go to cherryred.co.uk and just do a search for level 42, and
Yeah.
I don't know how many are left, but that's where you go.
Yeah, and if you're on Amazon, Amazon's good as well. I think there's some good deals on them on Amazon
Yeah,
as well.
Amazon has them all, and from what I understand, that most of these, I don't know about the last one, but I know the first two sold very well. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean,
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and just to go back to what you were saying, Winston, about why you need them kind of thing. If you're a level 42 fan, but like I think I started collecting in 1985, and I would like go to record fairs, and it was like you were digging through loads of stuff to just find like a B-side you'd never heard or a 12-inch mix you'd never heard. So I think Simon and I probably spent about 30 years doing that to know about these things in the first place. I think what's great about these box sets is they're just there. You've got all that digging, all that sort of like, sort of knowledge that the pair of us have, kind of thing, and not just us, like other fans who helped as well. But they're just three really nice, compact, complete sets.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's your best opportunity of getting everything in one place, or virtually everything. Yeah, there is bits, so there's some edits that are missing, but other than that, obviously there's some bits on the 2000 remasters which aren't on here, like the demos and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you get the 2000 remasters and these, you've pretty much got everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So just to qualify, maybe I'm wrong in this. So was it Cherry Red that reached out to Polydor, or was Polydor looking to do something and they reached out to Cherry Red?
It was it's Universal. Universal's like the parent company, so I think Polydor's more like a brand now than a. It's still a label, but I think Universal's the sort of the entity kind of thing, and Cherry Red are like a British independent label, and Steve, the chap that we deal with at Cherry Red, shout out to Steve Hammond. He does all the licensing for Universal. So somebody like Cherry Red comes along, or like more recently, is it Proper Records, Simon, the guys who are doing the vinyl reissues? So Steve's job is basically to sort of manage that back catalogue kind of thing and license it out. So obviously Cherry Red, Robin Songs, the guys who sort of publish it as well, they were never around when Polydor was releasing this material. But they've seen there's demand for this now, and like props to them as well for doing it, because they've taken the initiative, they've taken the commercial risk to put it out there, and that's why we have these amazing box sets. Yeah,
that's great. I didn't even notice. Until you mentioned it now, that because I didn't really look at. I mean, the liner notes are amazing. The interviews are amazing. The artwork that you did is amazing, but I didn't notice in the back that it says, the following tracks, had to be omitted because of licensing or whatever. I didn't, because I just saw this as, this is just telling me about each song. Yeah. And the publishing and the writers or whatever. So I didn't even notice that. So I'll be honest, I didn't read that. But like I said, there's a wealth of information here.
Yeah, and just going back to those liner notes, we're really lucky. Like we had Darrell Easley there, who's like an amazing music writer. He writes for Record Collector and magazines like that, and his knowledge is just phenomenal. And he got some fantastic interviews out of all of the band members, like sort of past and present. We got Phil in there. We had Wally in there, who's obviously a huge influence in the Level 42 sound, and amazing.
Yeah, Jacko. Yeah, because even if you've not read these liner notes, these interviews, because a lot of people just like they throw the music on, you need to read this stuff, especially the Forever Now, because it's the most current stuff. Yeah, and to have everyone that was involved with the band, including Jacko, like talk about this stuff, and Phil. I mean, there is a lot of information in there that blew my mind when I read the interview.
Absolutely.
Like you think you've heard everything, or you think you know everything, and you don't.
Wow. That's kind of cool. Paul and Simon, I think you both sort of touched on it. And I meant to ask, I have several other questions too, but you mentioned like Fait Accompli and Live at Wembley or Level Best. Are there any projects or any plans, do you know, of maybe those ever getting re-released?
Not at this stage. I did ask about sort of the Blu-rays and stuff like that when we were doing these box sets, but apparently labels are reluctant to release stuff on. If you look at the amount of Blu-ray music releases around now, it's you don't get that many. Obviously, sort of the bigger bands, the likes of U2 and people like that, you tend to see stuff, but there's sort of nothing in the pipeline at the moment. I mean, I'd love it. I'd love to get a complete Fait Accompli with the full NEC show and all the other bits that were recorded at the time. And obviously, I think the holy grail for me, it would be the full Live at Wembley show.
Absolutely. The full unedited set list of that show. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like those, kind of the ones we've seen that were not part of the final tape or DVD. They're only one camera, I think, right? Did they have multiple camera angles of all those songs?
According to the listings, yeah. There's I don't know how many cameras were used for Wembley, but yeah, there's all the individual camera angles, yeah.
Yeah,
as far as I'm aware.
Sleeves up or down on these ones?
No, sorry.
Are Boone's sleeves up or down on this?
See, that is something that I never noticed, and I must have watched that Laserdisc a million times.
Yeah,
someone mentioned, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
There were like days of discussions on that on the old Level 42 web digest.
I know, that's where I heard it. I'm like, I would make a horrible detective because I never noticed.
I won't mention names, but to some that was a whole drinking game thing.
Did it involve cider?
No, Raymond. No, well, cider back then. Yeah, Raymond can tell you all about that.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is I'm also a really big NXS fan, and recently they totally redid the Live Baby Live tour.
Oh yeah.
And I own it, and it's incredible. And I think I messaged Paul 2 years ago or something about it'd be wonderful if they could do that treatment with a full Live at Wembley gig. Were there any live gigs or live full gigs that could have been in the box sets that weren't like a Hammersmith Odeon 90 gig?
Yeah, well, like we're saying before, they were never like officially released. So the box set kind of remit was like, it had to be released on Polydor. Really, that was the deal. But all the sort of live gigs and things, or the ones that you mentioned there, like Hammersmith and stuff, are in the vault. And that for me as a fan is like the stuff that I really want to get out there.
Right.
But I think that Simon, I think you know better about the live stuff that's there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, sort of in terms of what Universal or Polydor have got, there's not as much as you might think.
Yeah.
In the archives. Now the RCA stuff, the way they list their archives is different to Universal. So there's nowhere as much detail. It's all very, very vague. So I'm not sure on what live stuff they've got. I know they've got Crystal Palace, and I'm assuming they've got the Enchi Day gig from November '91 because they obviously released a couple of tracks from that on the My Father's Shoes single.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. I know obviously Capitol Records recorded the broadcast the Hammersmith show, so I don't know whether they've got the full show somewhere. I really don't know.
Wasn't there a legal issue about them airing live tracks or something during the day during that concert?
Because unbeknownst to everybody at the time, the dispute with Polydor was happening, and I believe Capital Radio broadcast the part of the track guaranteed, so they were threatening lawyers and all the rest of it to come in, and it all got a bit out of control. I mean, I don't know how much of the song guaranteed was broadcast. It was probably only a few seconds, but
wow.
You know what bums me out? We're talking about that Enschede gig, which is on My Father's CD single, right? And what I recall about that, and I haven't listened to it in a long time, is the song, the live version of Guaranteed. They cut out the horn break at the end of the song, if I'm recalling correctly. It's like my favorite part of the song, and I think they snipped it for time, if I'm recalling correctly.
I know they did do that for the Overtime CD single.
Maybe that was it. Maybe that was it.
Yeah, because those tracks are from Crystal Palace. Those three tracks on that CD,
Okay.
And it was purely for time purposes because they could only put 20 minutes of music on a CD single, otherwise it wouldn't count towards chart placing.
Oh,
so that's why at that point they start, because I think one of the things was that around about that time, Prince released a CD single with a load of remixes on. I can't remember what song it was, but it was about 35 minutes of music, and it charted in the singles charts. But the UK British phonographic industry, or whatever they call the BPI, they started changing, because also you've got to remember the late 80s, the amount of different formats that were being released in the UK for singles to get them in the charts. So they started cutting down on that. So I think by 91, 92, you were sort of limited to 4 formats, and as I said, the maximum you could have was 20 minutes. I mean, it was a UK only thing. Abroad, it was different.
Yeah. I didn't know that, Simon. I didn't know.
I didn't either. I didn't know it had anything to do with chart. I mean, I know about audio limitations, but one thing I fondly remember about that CD single is that amazing gatefold panoramic shot of the whole band.
The stage with the dice.
That's amazing. I think I stole that from one of my bootlegs for that gig, for the CD cover or something. But that's an amazing high quality shot. So I always remember that. Now, one thing I do love too, and I remember with the box sets, with each box set, the first one dedicated to Boone, the second one dedicated to Al Murphy, and the third one dedicated to Alan Holdsworth, which was really cool. And I really do wish we could get one of those live gigs that Alan played with the band.
That's kind of a holy grail one for me too.
Yeah, Al was just amazing. I mean, I think the first time I saw him was there's a music show called The Tube, which obviously Level 42 played as well. And he was playing with Go West, another band that I used to love. I think that was like 85 sort of time. And we Close Our Eyes and all that kind of stuff. And like this guy on guitar, this Alan Murphy, wow, it's just these solos and things, just incredible,
Yeah, it's I never would have thought that, like, I got out of the military. I was working on Wall Street. There was a big record shop, and someone had told me about Holdsworth, because I was really at that time I was really into jazz fusion and stuff. So I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go there and check out one of his albums." And I bought the album where I think he's holding that synth guitar, and he's like got the Star Trek uniform on. And I liked that album. I loved it. I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. Okay." I got a nice tip for some good music, not knowing that, Gary Husband was on that record. And then, like, when it gets announced that he's playing, I'm like, how in the hell do they get Alan Holdsworth? And then I remembered, I guess Gary, he has that connection.
Gary's like, I know a guy.
And I have fond memories of seeing Holdsworth at a venue, B.B. King's Jazz Club in Times Square, Manhattan, and a bunch of us show up, and of course, and everyone that showed up was a fan of Alan Holdsworth as well. But some of us knew him from Level 42, and I think he was really shocked that all these people were pulling out Level 42 records.
I had the same experience.
That's pretty cool.
I had the same experience with him in Boston, and it was quite funny because I was traveling in Boston and they happened to be playing, and Gary was there, and Gary let me basically meet him after a sound check. And Gary is like, this guy's the real deal. He's like really selling Alan to me. I'm like, I got it. I know he's quite fun. I had a question about the business of these box sets, guys. Like, what is the business model? I mean, first of all, are the margins small? I assume they are. What are the costs versus how you profit? or how they come
Yeah,
from.
we never got into the commercial side of it. We were there really as consultants and experts, if you like. So my remit was, I mean, like for people who don't know, Simon and I, we were, well, Simon still is, but huge level 42 collectors, you know. So we collected all the records from all over the world, kind of thing, you know. So you know, Simon probably still has about 30 copies of World Machine from absolutely everywhere and Stand the Light from everywhere. And I used to be like that as well, kind of thing. And you know, and like I said earlier in the podcast, it was like they got in touch with us because they don't know that. You know, it's like you know, even Paul, the guy who got us involved as well, he's like more of a sort of general fan. Paul's a big music lover, but like by no means has he done like a real deep dive on level 42 kind of thing. So that was our side. So the commercial side, I've absolutely no idea. But one thing that I would say is like there's a lot of fans like think, oh yeah, you guys must have made loads of money from this. We didn't actually make any money from this. You know, it was a pure labor of love, and it was like, you know, there's probably about 12 months of work if you add it all up, like each, you know. And I'd also like to give a shout out to David O'Leary, who's a lifelong friend of mine. And David's a really, really talented industrial designer, graphic designer. And, you know, David did all of those visuals inside of the box set because, you know, there was no budget at all for these. And that's the thing, you know, that's where we could add value, kind of thing, by giving our time up, by, you know, like people like David giving up his talent, by Simon giving up his sort of knowledge and making sure we got like the right things. Because when they had the original draft of these box sets, they had like for World Machine, if you remember, that was released in the US with like Hot Water and The Chant Has Begun on, because they were trying to like sort of, you know, they felt that was necessary to make it have more commercial appeal, which, you know, I disagree with. I think it's like the best album ever made, personally. But, you know, but the version of World Machine that they were going to put on this box set, if you think like getting the To Be With You Again remix wrong was a bit of a faux pas, bad thing kind of thing. If Simon and I hadn't got involved, the version of World Machine on this definitive box set of the Polydor back catalogue would have been the US version. It would have The Chant Has Begun on. It would have had tracks missing. You know, so it was like,
you
know, and it's like,
Sleep in My Heart, or
oh yeah, exactly.
You know,
and it's just kind of like, you know, we are so like, you know, we're so invested in this music, and it's like, you know, we're so grateful to everybody who's been in level 42, because they have like you guys, they've soundtracked our lives, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like we just felt like, you know, it was just giving back. It was giving something back, just putting this work in. And, you know, we saw like, you know, and this is no disrespect to the guys who were involved in the project, because they're kind of, they're not knowledgeable, and it's not their fault, you know, but they've just been given this project to do. So there was a guy who was doing the graphics as well. And, you know, and he put some stuff together, and it was just like, but he's working to a budget, you know. We're not. We can give up as much time as necessary to get this right, and that's what we did.
Right.
But the guy who was like, you know, he's got a, you know, he's agreed a rate kind of thing. He's agreed he's going to take so much time to do this work, and he knocks all the covers out in a day, and we are like,
wow,
no,
wow.
And it's like, again, Kurt's a lovely guy. He's brilliant. But like, you know, it's you know, just from my side, it was months and months of work. But like at the same time, Simon's probably doing even more work, just like looking through this archive and looking at all these codes and things and all these boxes and things, and thinking, is that the one with the MicroKit 12-inch in? Is that the one? You know? And I mean, I think this would be a good time now, actually, Simon, to tell the whole story about that, To Be With You Again, because I think, I mean, that to me is a podcast in itself, that one. It's like, yeah.
I think the ADSC version is, we found out that the SC was Simon Carson. Those were
that's right. Yeah. All done by Simon Carson. That's what it was. Yeah. Go on, Simon.
This is exclusive.
Yeah, go on, Simon. Tell the tale.
I mean, we tried to get that on the 2000 remasters, as you know, the ADSC mix, and it was coming. it was quite late on in the process for them. So this was sort of around about March 2000. So they were trying to, bring things to a finishing point. And I remember being at Ian Books at the time, and I think it was John Astley had phoned Ian and sort of played the tracks down the phone and said, "Oh, yep, that's the one. That's the ADSC mix." So I thought, yeah, that's great. Finally, we've got that out on CD. And then, of course, when we listened to the CD, it was the dub mix. And what actually was, it was all the way back to the timings on the tape box. So if you look at the 12-inch sleeve for the ADSC mix, you'll see that the ADSC mix is timed at 5 minutes 45, and the dub mix is timed at 5 minutes 51. They're the timings that are printed on the 12-inch sleeve. Now they're also on that tape box that it was in. But what in matter of fact, it was the dub mix that was 5 minutes 45. And the actual ADSC mix is around the 6 minute mark. So that's where the problem was. It went all the way back to whoever marked the tape box up, they'd got the timing wrong. Another similar one is the extended version to Take Care of Yourself.
Love it.
It says 6 minutes 18 on it when it's actually 6:28. And that's even on the acetate 12-inch. They've got the timing wrong for it. So it just shows you how far back in the process these mistakes can sort of come from. Now, luckily, there was another tape box with the ADSC mix on that they'd done for the 12-inch. So it had the two remixes plus the live version of My Kid, which was faded earlier, 4 minutes 7. So I thought, I don't want them to get the other tape box because the same mistake will end up happening again. So I said, get that one. And so they got it. They transferred it over to digital for us. I checked the mixes and said, yeah, that's it. That's the one. So that's how we got it. Because even on that, what was it called? Was it Collected, the one that came out on vinyl?
The one with the green vinyl.
Yeah. And then they had the 3-disc set with the bonus 12-inch mixes. Yeah. Again, it was the dub mix that was used on there, so they would have been using that other tape with the wrong timings on.
There was another one as well, Simon. I think there was 3 in total where it was the dub instead of but it was labelled on the track listing as the remix.
ADSC. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's how long it took to get it put right. So who knows whether if they do another 12-inch compilation, whether they'll get it right. It's anyone's guess.
What are your guys?
What tape box you pull out?
What's everybody's thoughts on that? Because I remember buying that when it came out. It was like I bought the 12-inch. And I remember being really disappointed because it was just the album version. I wanted an extended version. Yeah. And I still think an extended version of the album version would be incredible. So we'll do that at some point. But I remember because you'd go in 1 week and buy that, and you go in the next week, it's like, whoa, what's this? And I remember being the same with the Gatefold Running the Family at the time. It was like, and all my friends would get into the record shop like on the Tuesday or something. They'd like come into school like, look what we've got kind of thing. It was like, oh, it was just like, had to wait till Saturday and go and buy it and hope there was one left. But, you get in then the ADSC mix. It was like fantastic. And I always liked it. Yeah, but it wasn't until like the sort of the internet age and the digest and stuff like that I realized how many people didn't like it, So I was just interested. Yeah.
And I remember seeing it, Paul, when we see this stuff in New York versus it's much less common in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
I remember getting that green thing in one of the record stores. I'm like, whoa, this is a find.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between folks working on this with a passion and not just, I work at this place and they assign me this job.
Yeah.
And, and they're probably working on a bunch of other things at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's why we all, and I hope you get sick of hearing this from everybody, but you guys have done us all such a huge favor because these 3 boxes are amazing, and it would have hurt my heart to buy this and have it all screwed up.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah, and if we hadn't have been involved, we would have been the same as you guys, and all the other fans have been. Well, why isn't this on there? What have they done there? So it was sort of our chance to make sure that it was as good as it could be.
Yeah, because that would have been a disservice to level 42 as well, I think, too.
Yeah. But like, you know, you're thanking us, but I have to thank you guys as well, because, you know, over the years you've done so much, certainly for me as well, just like sending me things, sharing things and stuff that I'd never heard before. And it's just, that's what's great about it. There's such a fantastic community. I mean, we set that Ultimate Level 42 Facebook group up, like, forget when that was, but that was Paul Lewis, and we did the Ultimate Level 42 website. Is that still going? I don't even know if that's still alive.
Yeah.
But that was with like Andre Simmer, and I think he still pays for that if it's still up. I don't think we ever put any money into that, but you know, we were all just sort of chipping into that, and I think it's because we just care. We're just passionate. We love the music. And it's like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I listen to a lot of music, but like Level 42 has just been my constant, and all the sort of side projects and all that kind of stuff. Never tire of it. You know, there's a lot of music you listen to, and it's very sort of, I like it, and it's just transient, and it comes and goes. But Level 42, just always, just always there. Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and Simon and Paul, you guys are both stand-up guys yourself, and have done so much work in the Level 42 community. Tipping my hat to you guys today.
Thank you.
And we feel like you with this podcast. You know, people ask me, "Are you getting paid for this?" You know, like, no. You know, this is labor of love. You know, it's you know, it reminds me of so many great times with so many great people and experiences that most people don't get to have with a band that they like. You know, it's been great. And thanks for listening to our podcast. I wanted to know, I know I've said it a few episodes. I said, I know Simon and Paul might be listening. What did I get wrong?
Yeah.
And one thing it was, I keep waiting for a list from you guys.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you real quickly, two things. Tired of Waiting off of Forever Now. Was that supposed to be released as the fourth single from the album at the time?
I heard a rumor around sort of when the Forever Now tour started that was meant to be, but I used to be sort of round about that time myself. Ian would regularly ring Paul Crockford's office to see if there was any news. He must have got sick and tired of us, but he never ever mentioned anything about Tired of Waiting being a fourth single. So it's possible it was thought of, but if you know, linking back again to box 3, if you look at the sleeve note and interviews in there, RCA pretty much lost interest with Level 42 in 1994. They were more interested in Take That rather than them. So I don't think maybe if the album had done better, which would have helped if they'd promoted it better, we may have got a fourth single, but I don't think it was ever. There's certainly no 12-inch mixes or anything like that were done for it.
I just remember it landing with a real whimper. I just remember going to the record store, and I didn't even know it was like coming out that week. You know, there was no press and stuff. Like with the earlier albums and stuff, there'd always be an advert. It's like, it's out on this date kind of thing. You'd be like really sort of like anticipating the kind of thing. I just remember like turning up and there it was. It was just like, So I think even from that standpoint, you know, it was just that there was just no marketing, was there? Really, let's be honest. It was recorded, it was released, and that was it. I think they were just hoping that, you know, that there'd be this big fan base who would sort of sweep it up. But you know, I think the record label still has to do the marketing job kind of thing. I think probably the way they went about it as well. You know, you talk about Take That and stuff, and that was the thing of the time, the boy bands and stuff. But it was like all these dance mixes and things in K Class, and much as I love K Class, like Rhythm is a Mystery, what a tune kind of thing. But like K Class remix and Level 42, just not sure.
They didn't do it for me either.
No.
Yeah.
I think that the worst thing ever was that. No disrespect to the guy who did it. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but that Porky Rides Again remix of Forever Now, and it's like I can't even hear the tune in it. You know, it's like
why bother? Why bother if you're not going to use any of the original songs?
Yeah. Ian Buck played that to me in person when I first got to see him in person, and he wanted to see the reaction on my face.
Yeah.
He was acting like he liked it, but he hated it.
Yeah,
but
we obviously we were trying to track down mixes and things, and Pete Lorimer, he did obviously the Lorimer mix of Overtime, and was it me who tracked him down, Simon? I remember. I think I had a few messages with him, and he's a property mogul now, and he's got a series on Netflix. He's living in the States, and he could barely remember it. And it was like I was going to him saying, "All right, mate, have you got the master tapes of this?" And he was like, "Nah." He goes, "Just rip it off YouTube." Oh wow!
Yeah. Right. Hey, Simon and Paul, have we got anything wrong so far in our podcast? So
most of it, I was telling Mikey before, it was just like, it was like, I was listening to Forever Now one last week, and oh God, I'm never going to be down on you guys. I love you.
Right.
There's just a few bits where I was driving and listening to it, and I was like, no, that wasn't on that single. That wasn't even released. That was actually UB40. That wasn't even level 42. No. Honestly, it's like I'm getting really rusty now, but Simon's still like sharp as a tack, in terms of like Simon was like pulling those like track timings off there, and he wasn't looking at anything. I can tell you that now. That they were just straight from Simon's brain. He's like,
bye.
But yeah.
Oh, you mean he remembers some of the timings of the tracks?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my lunch. I remember having a burger with like gherkin and chorizo in, but that's about as far back as my memory goes, kind of thing.
Hey guys, I had a question about each of these box sets. What's been the reaction of Mark, Mike, and Phil? Anything stick with you guys? Appreciation or?
God, yeah, amazing. And I'll tell you what, like the other like musicians, DJs, and people who I've got huge respect for, who've kind of not just the box set, the book as well. Have just come out of the woodwork and was like, wow, love it, kind of thing. And like. When I sort of like decided to do the book, I'd never felt like I could do the book because I didn't have strategy, which was like, to those who don't know,
right.
It was the album that Andy Soiker pulled together from the sessions that he recorded when he had them signed to his Elite label in 1980, and he was going to release the album, which became the early tapes, as Strategy. And I think, oh God, like I say, my memory's not great. I can't remember how many years, 30 years plus, I think it took me to find that. And it was this lovely lady called Margaret Bland, and she'd amazing stories. So there's a magazine in the UK called Record Collector, and Simon and I used to buy it. I still buy it now, and but at the time I would buy it because I'd want to see the adverts in the back, the classifieds.
Right.
Who's selling what kind of thing, and you could advertise in there as well. And I never thought of doing that. I think I was probably just a little bit too sort of tight with my money, kind of thing, And Margaret put an advert in there, and she was like, "Wanted, level 42, get in touch, Margaret, and who got in touch? Andy Soiker, Elite Records, the guy who signed level 42, and he was like, I think I've got something you might be interested in.
Oh, man.
So he had the acetate of Sandstorm, which is
12-inch acetate,
I think that must be the first ever level 42 pressing of anything. I mean, I've not seen anything before that. And because that was the B side of Daz 4, DAZZ4, which was obviously the fourth record on Elite Records, and the Daz was it was supposed to be disco jazz, which I think is what Soiker was kind of going for with that label. It was all the sort of early Brit funk stuff. So she had the acetate of that, And the B-side, that was like Powerline, if anybody remembers that. And that record, the white label, that in itself was a holy grail. But this acetate, my goodness, you know. And he had his own personal test pressing of Strategy, of which there's like 6 in the world, but this was his copy.
Right.
And he had the 2 stereo master tapes, and even Polydor Universal have only got a copy of those master tapes. So anyway, Margaret bought them off him, and you know, Margaret was just buying everything and anything, just squirreling it away, kind of thing. And these master tapes, acetate, everything, they just went in a drawer under her bed in the 90s, and they just stayed there, you know. And I got a message from Toby Kift, who's another level 42 collector.
Yeah.
And like, you know, these things that Margaret had, like any of us super collectors kind of thing would have given her our right arm to get hold of, kind of thing. And Toby at the time, I think he was getting an extension built on his house, so all of his money was kind of going into this extension. So he didn't have any budget to buy these things. And he was like, kind of like almost through gritted teeth, he was like, Paul, Margaret, this Margaret lady has got all these things. And I was like, what? You know, and I was like, it was like, and you know, from that point, and so I ended up like, it was our daughter Jo who was like selling them, and on behalf of Margaret, kind of thing. And I had to go through almost this kind of like vetting process, this kind of approval process to see if I actually qualified to own these things, you know. So I remember like sending Jo like a list of my collection and all these things. And I was like, it's like, you know, when you guys used to collect sticker albums and things, collect stickers, and it was like, I haven't got that one in the collection.
Yeah.
So it was like sent this whole list through, and it took me ages to pull it together because I never used to catalog it all. And I just sent it down. I was like, look, this is the piece that I'm missing. And she was like, right, great. Margaret would love to see you. So I got in the car and I traveled like 4 hours to Margaret's house. And I think I probably got there at like sort of 10 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, we sat down, we were having a drink, having a cup of coffee and stuff like that, talking about level 42. And she's like showing me all of our collection and stuff, but not these records, you know. And you know, I like to think I'm polite and stuff, and I didn't like want to say, can I see the records? You know, can I see what I've come for? And I honestly swear to God, I sat there till about sort of 10 o'clock at night.
What?
Without asking to see these records, right? Yeah. So can you imagine? So she showed me T-shirts, showed me everything, showed me like Mark's Bitter Moon promo and things like that. I'm like, yeah. Great, you know, lovely, but I was just desperate to see these things, you know. And like it got to 10 o'clock and I went, well, I was like, Margaret, I'm going to have to leave now because I've got a 3-hour drive home, and I think there's roadworks, so it's probably going to be more like 4. And she went, oh, well, I suppose I better show you what you came to see, hadn't I?
Oh my
God. And she was literally tooling with me the whole time. She told me the next day, she was like, I just wanted to see how far you could go without asking to see these things. And it was just like, I'm like, I can't believe you did that. But like, it's just such a good, she's so funny though. And
planned. Nothing.
Yeah, oh no. So she brought them down, and it was like, you know, Christmas morning kind of thing. It was like, oh my goodness, you know. So anyway, I made her an offer, and there was a record in there which was the Strawberry Studios acetate of Wings of Love, and I knew Toby didn't have that, so I bought that as well. And because he told me about it, I gave that to Toby, you know. So yeah. So but I was just expecting to go down and look at these things, right? And she went, so yeah, and we agreed on a price, and she went, all right then. And I was like, she's like, great. And I was like, well, I'll give you a ring. I'll come back down. I'll transfer the money and all this kind of stuff. And she went, oh, don't be silly. And I'm like, what? And she literally just gave me them. And she's like, I've been listening to you all day. I trust you. I know you're going to pay me for them. Just take them. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
You know? And I just
never paid her, ever.
Well, honestly, you know what it is? I think, you know, when somebody trusts you like that, especially somebody you've only just met, it's incredible. Yeah. And it's like, you know, I've just never forgot her, you know, been in touch a few times since and stuff. And, you know, she's lovely. Jo's lovely as well. And, yeah, just amazing, you know. And
That's
and
awesome.
and that was like when I got that was the point where I thought I can write a book now and do something, but I was never doing it for anything other than just to, because when you've got a collection that big, Simon will tell you, Simon's got an even bigger collection. It's like you want to look at something kind of thing. You've got to dig. You've got to really dig to find these things.
Yeah.
So my idea for this book was just to like put everything in one place.
Right.
So if I want to look at something, I just turn to page 43. I don't have to like little 43 reference there, and I don't have to. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, yeah. But there was part of me like getting to the point where I was thinking I would maybe just sell it and stuff, and just, you know, because it's getting very, very expensive, you know.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I wrote to Mark because I thought like I bet he would like a copy of something like this because it's got all of these output in it, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And he just replied and he just said like, what a lovely idea. And he said, you know, good luck, get cracking. And he said, if it rocks, that was his word, if it rocks,
Right.
I'll order some copies for the shop. So I'm like, wow, I'm actually doing a book. I'm actually doing a book that Mark wants to buy as well, you know. So that was really motivating from there, you know. So amazing. So that's kind of how all of that kind of started, you know.
It's a great book, and I'm glad to see I sold you one of my rarities,
Yes.
Paul. I don't even remember what it was. Do you remember?
Micro Kid, wasn't it?
It
Am I
was.
right?
It was an acetate.
Yeah, the acetate Micro Kid. Yeah.
Good memory.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
And
I was glad I got to see it again in the book. I was like, oh,
did
there.
it have like 2 punch holes through it as well? Or was
think
that
it
another
did,
one? Yeah.
One of them was from me. The other one.
Uh,
Just slipped with a drill.
I must say that is a cool thing to flip through the book and see like your name in it,
Yeah.
right? You know, and
Yeah.
because I had got lucky with a guy in New York who owned worked at a record shop, and he was a huge fan, and he noticed that I was coming in every week and buying what level 42 stuff I could find. And he's like, hey, you know, I'm a big fan of that band. You know, I got a bunch of stuff in my mom's basement.
Yeah.
And he starts bringing it in, and I bought all of it from him. And that's where I got those acetates from with the U.S. greatest hits that they never released. And he wound up with that one. And
he sold me that one.
there's
Yeah.
one. Yeah, and I think I gave one to Mikey. I gave one to Carl. And, you know, because I get to the point in my collection where it's like, okay, it's great having all this stuff, but I'm pretty much not playing the vinyl. Like I'm going to play one version of this. I'm not going to throw this acetate or whatever on my turntable and listen to it regularly. No. But it's kind of cool to see like whatever versions of those that I had, they made their way around the world. So it's like Glenn is credited for one of them, and you know, one of them to me and one to someone, you know, and it's just like, oh, that's cool because that's what I love about the community. Like, I have all these live shows, and people just because people shared the stuff with me. Yeah,
and you know what, Winston? I'm sure I thanked you at the time. I hope I did, but you know, thank you again, because like, you know, the stuff you used to send me, and you would send it all at your expense. You know, never take any money for it, and it was just a beautiful thing you did, man. It was great, you know.
Yeah, that's what we were doing because postage was so cheap back then. Like,
amen.
You know, I was living in New York, and it was now it's out of control to send something to another country. But I never had anyone, with the exception of the first bootleg I had bought, was out of the back of Record Collector magazine, some dodgy cassette, you know, and so until I started finding all this vinyl, I really hadn't heard anything live. But people, you know, I met people online. They're like, "Oh, I got this," and they would send it to me and not ask for anything. And I felt like, okay, well, you know, I can share this with other people. Yeah, sure. And it's like, well, it'd be kind of rotten of me to like, charge someone for something that I got for free. But that's what we did. It was like I remember making so many CDs because I got a CD burner, and I thought like I'm the king of the world now, and like I could copy this stuff and send it to people and now it's like it's out of control the amount of live shows that I have. But it's all because fans were so cool and wanting to share the stuff, and I love that.
Oh, absolutely. There was a lovely guy I just wanted to mention called Furu in Japan. I don't know if you knew him as well, Simon. And he used to send me Japanese pressings, and they were absolutely mint condition. They were like send me CDs, and they were sealed. And he would just send them as a gift kind of thing. And it was like, oh, what a man, just what a guy, just like, and it's like, you can't thank people enough. And it's like, when I did the book, Jan Kincaid from the Brand New Heavies, I don't remember that band, like, a British funk band.
Love the Brand New Heavies.
He got in touch and he was like, I'd love a copy. And I was like, sent him one. And then he sent me this poster from when Star Child was released, and it was a promotional poster that he'd got from a shop in London with the artwork on. And he was like, I've had this since back in the day. And he was like, I love it, and it's been like a bit of a wrench to give you it, but like you deserve it. I can see what you're doing there, kind of thing. That deserves to be in your collection, kind of thing. It's just, it's just so many nice people like yourselves included, who just helped along the way.
Are there things out there that's kind of still on your wish list, Paul and Simon?
As I said before, the Live at Wembley '86, I'd like to see that out in full on Blu-ray. That would be unbelievable. 4K, like you said, for the NXS gig. Something of that quality would be phenomenal. And other things, there's still bits that aren't out on digital. There's some edits, there's some unreleased mixes in the vault that I'd like for them to come out one day, but whether that will ever happen, who knows.
Aye.
Yeah, always looking for new stuff to buy as well. So
I would actually like Retroglide on vinyl, because that was never done. I think that would be great.
That's Winston's favorite album, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great album.
I love it. Winston does not like it. I was kidding.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think in a previous podcast we discussed it, and I'll be honest. My living situation at the time when I got that record on CD, or that album on CD, I listened to it a few times and just kind of put it away and never revisited it. So I need to pull it off the shelf, as it were, and listen to it again, because I if I'm being honest, I didn't give it a proper listening.
I love it.
I do. I think Rooted is an incredible song.
Yeah,
it's one of the
I like that.
songs.
There's songs I can pick out that I like. As a whole, I need to listen to the whole thing.
And I think the benefit we probably had, like you guys didn't, because they didn't tour over there. But I mean, you've seen the footage and stuff, but like seeing it live, hearing it live was wow.
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
Thinking of when Mikey asked that question about stuff. I agree with all the stuff that you guys said, but I was always partial to. I mean, it would be great to have a set of, like a box of live stuff. Like, okay, well, here's a good quality, gig for every album, for each album, and that begs the question. That I guess everybody would want to know is, are there any ideas for another box after these three?
Yeah, do you want to answer that one, Simon?
Yeah, there is. Now I know, for example, on this box three, I think a couple of fans had said, why wasn't the Live at Wembley '89 recorded on there? There's a couple of ideas that are floating around, which are may or may never happen, but it's too soon to say. I mean, to put it into context, I did the track listing for box set number 3 in July 2021, and it took until November 2023 for it to finally be released. So it just shows you how long these things can take.
Right.
Now I know fans would have loved some more live stuff on these box sets, but my idea was that if these do well, that I'd like to do something with the live material on its own. So the dream would be for maybe a couple of 10 CD box sets with all live material on, something like that. I've actually put forward a proposal for a live at the BBC box set, to try and get all of those concerts out.
Nice.
I know everybody's got them, they're on the internet and stuff, but to have them as an official release would be something else. But again, we don't know how, whether if or when this will happen. But it's something that we are looking at, and also to do something else with the live material as well. Covering the whole of the band's career. I'm sure Mark has got some live stuff that he's recorded over the years that hasn't been put out.
Yeah,
I bet you they recorded every show. I really do. I mean, from a board.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I always remember Mark putting a tweet on after the Running in the Family 25 tour had finished, because they didn't record or film anything on that tour, but they went into a studio or a rehearsal room or something, and they filmed themselves playing the set, and they were thinking of putting that out, but nothing ever came of it.
What period of time was that?
This was 2012, so it was for the 25th anniversary of the Family album. So they went in, filmed themselves doing the set, and then that was it. Nothing was ever done with it. So whether there was a problem with the sound or he just changed his mind, I don't know. But that would be something I would ask Mark.
They probably did acoustic versions right at that point, right now?
Yeah, well, they did do an acoustic spot in the set at that point. So they played. I don't know if you've seen videos or clips of that tour. They did the Running in the Family album from start to finish.
Right.
They then had an acoustic break in the middle. So they did 3 tracks. They did, I think,
Outside Minds, Guaranteed.
Yeah, Guaranteed. And what was the other one from Retrograde?
On and On.
Was it All I Need? Is it? Was it
All I Need? Yeah, On and On. Yeah, All I Need. That's right. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and then they went back into the sort of the full band set then, and they started with Heathrow, went through like Something About You and Hot Water and stuff like that. So that's what I'm assuming that is that they filmed.
Yeah.
So to get something like that released as well, that would be
definitely
amazing.
Okay, so here's what we do. Everyone, all the millions of people that are going to hear this podcast,
millions.
You're gonna call Paul Waller. I'm going to give his phone number here in a minute. He's going to call his good friend Mark King.
444-444-434-2. Yeah.
A lot of 4s and 2s. And he's going to call his buddy Mark, and we're going to get that thing released.
Do you know what it is, though? Mark's not the one who's...
he doesn't.
Mark has got behind every single thing that... and I'm not going to say I've proposed it. Simon's put all these amazing things together. Mark's been behind it. Simon is very much now, I think, the sort of custodian, the curator of the entire Level 42 catalogue, and it's not down to Mark anymore. It's the label, and it's so it's like like an entity like Cherry Red Records who've released these 3 box sets. They've got to be convinced that the harsh reality is that these things have to sell, and they have to be convinced of a live at the BBC set. They have to be convinced that it's worth paying the BBC to get the license, kind of thing, because when we got into this, like, Simon and I were like, to Steve at university, we were just like, let's just do vinyl, and he was like, no, and why not? Because like we were like, let's do coloured vinyl, and he was like, all these things are just so readily available on sites like Discogs, on eBay. So if somebody wants a mint copy of like The Pursuit of Accidents, they'll just go and buy it off there, and they'd probably rather have that than a repress, because they're going to think that was the OG, that was the and here we are now. They've reissued the first album. They've brought Stand in the Light out on gold vinyl, and so there's demand for it, obviously, because there's proper records. But Simon, do you want to talk about the proposal that you've put together for that? Because I think that's really exciting. I think we're just kind of waiting to hear. But like, Simon's gone through all of the albums that haven't as yet been sort of reissued. I think one of them, World Machine, has been reissued by Music on Vinyl years ago, but that was a bit of and they made a mistake. But Simon's done like these, like, these are the things. You ask what I'd like to see. I'd like to see these things that Simon's proposed, and with that,
I mean, sort of. Let me start again. Record companies now, it's all vinyl because that's where the money is. CD, even though it's still outselling vinyl, it doesn't seem to be as much as a priority as the vinyl. You know, you've only got to look at all the vinyl releases that come out each year, all the coloured vinyls. You know, if, for example, if an artist is releasing a new album, they'll release multiple editions in coloured vinyl and picture discs and all sorts to get it, you know, as high as up the chart as possible. Now, I thought, well, being as all the albums are, apart from Retrograde, are now available on vinyl, why not do deluxe vinyl? So each one of them have it as a 2-disc set, coloured vinyl, you know, different colour, relating to the
the colour of the sleeve kind
band's
of thing.
artwork. Say, for example, the early tapes. So you could have one, so that the colour of the sleeves, you could have like one white vinyl, one blue vinyl, but the bonus disc would have B-sides, 12-inch mixes, etc., in relation to each album. So the proposal I put forward, which we still haven't heard anything back yet, is one for each album and influences as well, where with bonus tracks on each one.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll put forward. The only one I haven't done is Retrograde yet. But we'll see. That would be something further down the line. It's going to be the Polydor stuff that will ultimately sell more so than the later material. But if this comes off, we're both very happy with the track listings. Again,
right.
Mark has given it the
Mark
green
as
light.
well, yeah,
exactly. He was over the moon with them, so he's just said, yeah, get on with it. So it's just a case of waiting for these companies to come round and see if they're happy to go forward with it.
Do you know what it is? It's one of those things. I think if we all club together and raise the money for the license, we could release it under license. I do believe that. You know, it's like I don't think it's any different to what Cherry Red have done.
I agree, Paul. But what I don't know is like how much does something cost for them? I have no idea.
I've just I'm not giving the cost of it, but I've just done an album for an 80s band called the Ra Band. And I managed all of that from artwork through to like the audio recording. It was like a live gig at the Jazz Cafe. So they recorded it. I got someone to master it. I got like, artwork's obviously my forte kind of thing. I've done it with Phil Gould's albums, like Beautiful Wounds. I did all the sort of artwork and the sort of like stuff to do with the vinyl. But there's actually a pressing plant, which is only about 30 minutes drive from my home. And that's where I did this Ra Band vinyl. And so like one of the things Simon's proposed is like a gatefold version of True Colors. But that would be, with all the artwork sort of redone, not redone, but like obviously the original version didn't have a gatefold, but there's so many, like, and you know this, Winston, because you've seen all these promotional photos. I think it was that Sheila Rock, correct me if I'm wrong, took for that album. So obviously the album cover is like a pixelated version of one of Sheila's photos. But what I would want to do is get the other photos as well and put them in the gatefold. And if there's a budget there to do like a little 12-inch by 12-inch booklet that pulls out, that's got liner notes, it's got lyrics in, it's got more of these photos in. And then on the first vinyl, which would be like a blue vinyl coded to the color of the actual LP sleeve, you've got the actual album like remastered. And then on the second disc, you've got things like the sort of Hot Water 12-inch and stuff like that was, released with the album kind of thing. And, that's the stuff that now I want to see. Above and beyond that, I want to hear the guys just get in the studio and do another Brit Funk album. But these reissues I think would be phenomenal, like the deluxe version of World Machine, Run the Family on vinyl, exactly the way I've just described. True Colors with all the original photography, with like interviews, notes, like we did with the box set, but like applied to vinyl.
Right. And I think that'd be great, especially those. I would think those albums like World Machine and Running a Family in those forms would have the greatest commercial appeal.
Oh, too right. And we've tried to do record store days, like, record store day releases and things. So we've put like, what did we put forward, Simon? We had like World Machine on like neon pink vinyl, didn't we? And
proposal, didn't you? But it was due to, there was a backlog for the pressing plants at the time. And stuff. So it sort of, it wouldn't have it would have taken too long for it to happen, so it didn't. But again, if they did these things for Record Store Day,
Yeah.
And you've got the 40th anniversary True Colours and Influences this year. You've got the 40th
exactly.
for World Machine next
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
So you've got all these things coming up, and the 50 Physical Presence album as well, 40
Yeah.
years with that next year. So
Yeah.
there's so many things, anniversaries that they can use to promote these things.
It's always the hook, right? I mean, and we know for sure there's extra material from the A Physical Presence double live album because it was recorded from 3 different shows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Coyote is the track that didn't come out, wasn't it, Simon?
Yeah, I did the Curate.
Yeah, it's a great version.
On one of them, isn't it?
Which one, sorry?
Dune Tune is on one of those shows as well, isn't it?
Yeah. But
I remember
Coyote,
rightly, or is it just
amazing. Yeah.
I remember, there's a boot going around of all the shows, but they're not all the full shows. So,
no,
it's a couple of songs from this gig, a couple of songs from that. So, as a fan, you get to hear some things you didn't hear.
Yeah,
you hear some fluffs or whatever. But I don't think I was aware that they did Dune to yes, the infamous. Oh my gosh, that when someone sent me that just. My mind was blown, and it's never not fun to listen to that.
Are you talking about Are You Hearing?
Yeah.
That's the best.
He completely forgets the word.
I feel bad for him.
It was worth it.
Yeah. Hey, I got one last question for you guys. Last year there was a video that came out from some TV show. It was like something from France, and I think it was Pursuit of Accents era video. It was like, and I saw that, and I'm like, it hit me. I'm like, every time we think we've reached the bottom, there's nothing left to see.
Yeah.
Something comes out like this. Do you guys have any gut feeling on whether there is still a lot of stuff out there that we haven't seen or heard?
Oh yeah, I mean, you think sort of all the TV shows that they did around that time across Europe and everywhere. There's again going back to Ian Buck, getting all the videos from him with all the clips that he managed to get from around the world, and you've got like the Countdown show from 1982. I mean,
right,
we've got 4 tracks from that on video. Surely there must be more from that show in the archives. It's just what all these TV stations have got, but it's how do you get them?
Right.
Or how do you know what they've even got? You've just got to hope these things come out like that French TV broadcasted. There was that other one that came out a couple of years ago. Was it the Angel Casas show from 1984, where they performed 3 tracks live? I mean, where did that come from? It's just...
it's amazing.
Yeah, but I think in terms of like tracks and things, I think we've pretty much heard everything. I don't think there's much in the archive, Simon. Would you
No,
agree?
no. There's I would say very little. I mean, there's some song titles in there, but I think a lot of them are just working titles for songs that eventually came out. So it's
there's a one called Love Song. What that we never found that one. There was a one called Love Song, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think it was the one the Cure did, but
no.
But that again, Love Song was probably Leaving Me Now or something like that, wouldn't just be like you said, a working title.
That actually dated back to 82. That one.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was when they were doing. From looking at the archives, it was when they were doing the sessions with Lick Nornay.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Launay, I should say, not Lick Nornay. When they did the It's a Happening and things like that. So who knows what that was?
But nobody's going to pay for it to come out the archives, are they? That's the problem now. So
Well, this is the thing, and if there's anything in there that's in 24 track, it costs a lot of money to get it converted. So again, budgets are so tight.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that the demos were just like curiosities, really, weren't the kind of thing. Like, so that's how it sounded before it was the finished article.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather just, I think back in the day, I remember being quite obsessed about getting hold of them. I don't know about you, Simon, but it's like now I kind of just sort of look back at them and just don't think I'd want to listen to them. I think I'd rather just hear the finished version, I think it's...
Yeah,
so it's kind of like a one-off.
Yeah,
It's interesting to hear it, but how often would you go back to that?
I mean, one of the nicest ones I heard was something that Phil Gould did, because obviously he was behind Love in a Peaceful World, and he recorded that in '92. I want to say it's got to be around about that time. With it was Steve White, I believe, from the Style Council, and it was Valerie Etienne, who's like one of the British soul singers, and yeah, and it's just a great version. Just had a bit of an Indian vibe to it as well, and it was funny because like I used to love Galliano, the band that she was in, and Giles Peterson, who's like a really prolific DJ in the UK, and he's like, he's a very well respected guy. His music knowledge, like on jazz, funk, soul, hip hop, anything, it's just unrivaled. And he was like a Level 42 super fan, and he was like, the first record he got was that Sandstone promo, like Daz 4, and he was given that by Elite Records, but he used to follow the band round. And when we did the book, Giles found out about it, and he was up in my neck of the woods kind of thing, doing a gig, and he was like, can I come and see the collection kind of thing? And he brought this guy from Galliano, this band. I don't know if any of you remember this band, but it was like they were like an acid jazz type band. Mm-hmm. So Rob came, and they, I was a big fan of Giles, big fan of Rob. So it was an honor to actually have them in my house, kind of thing. And I was like saying to Rob, I was like, yeah, there was so Valerie, who was in your band, she did a thing with Phil Gould, Loving a Piece of Word. And he went, yeah, no, it's my wife.
Okay, that's amazing.
I've heard that version, and it's really good. I think I might have mentioned it on the Forever Now when we were discussing that album. Is that's a cool story.
There's another song, Winston, called Future Self, which Phil sent me, and that was because I think he took a lot of those songs along to Mark when they got back together to do Forever Now. Mm-hmm. And there's a track called Future Self, and I'm never going to remember the line out of it. There's a line in it that was also in Phil's song Cool Man, yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's got a kind of a groove like the Bends, it's got that really deep sort of chugging kind of bass line sort of thing. But it's again, that one's got Valerie Etienne on vocals, and I think it's Yolanda Charles on bass as well. And that for me is the song that never made it to Forever Now, because I think that would have been awesome. Like if with Mark and Mike singing on it. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But yeah.
We gotta hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
I would just make one last quick point about the attention to detail. I love that the 3 boxes look the same.
Mm.
Yeah,
because they're the same size. They look great on the shelf. Because some record companies are known to, we're going to do the second box. We're going to make it look different. And it's like, okay, you just ruined the whole aesthetic for this thing.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed was, obviously, the Forever Now, the last box.
Yeah.
The later years doesn't have as many discs as the other ones, because we're talking 2 albums here.
Yeah.
But they made a great decision to make Guaranteed and Forever Now this CD gatefold.
They didn't, but we did.
You did. Okay. Because I was going to say, whoever did that, the they being you two guys, because that is amazing. Because if they didn't do that, then you've got 7 discs rattling around in this box.
Exactly.
And I know maybe I'm the only person that would be like kind of weird about that, but that would have weirded me out. I'm like, this is a great idea.
No, bless you, man. Thank you for mentioning that, because that was something that we were really pleased. Because like I said, any value that was added to this set was us, and Paul as well, who we mentioned before, Paul Wallace, and there was a few other people helped as well. Bjorn helped, didn't he? Bjorn Jeppesen. Thank him as well.
Too,
who else can we thank? Simon. Is that it?
But there was Glenn, wasn't there? Who was
Glenn helped Glenn with it. Amazing collector. Hello to Glenn. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Julio, who's on the digest, great art. He helped out with something, designer. You guys, and it's a big smile to see him thanked on that box. And I know it's a big thrill. I believe he lives in New York.
Yeah. No, so that gatefold thing, yeah, that was literally just like, because we just thought they would sort of reduce the box down, and then when we found out it was going to be the same size box and we sent the template through, it was like, nah, I can't do that. And I don't even know whose idea was it, Simon, to do? Was it yours to make the gatefold?
No, I think it was yours.
Was it?
Oh, look at you guys.
Yeah, I can't remember.
None of you guys can take
makes
credit
it-
for anything. You just hand it off.
Yeah,
But it's cool
But, yeah.
because it's, you pick these things up and you hold them in your hand, and
yeah,
you even got those 2 promo shots for the Forever Now album that a lot of people probably
Yeah.
haven't seen. So it's cool. But I noticed it's like, okay, if they didn't do this gatefold idea,
yeah,
it wouldn't feel right, and you
Yeah.
pick
No.
it up and they'd be rattling around in there. So it was a great choice. It made
Yeah.
simple thing for other folk, but for me, it's
Yeah,
that's
but-
that's brilliant, and I'm glad you guys were the.
yeah. So I
Genesis.
haven't really sort of dug into the artwork, but like the label didn't have anything, So if Simon and I hadn't done
didn't
it,
have any. Universal didn't have any.
no. So like even back when Simon was doing those 2000 reissues, they had to do second generation artwork and stuff. So I was just fortunate that we'd photographed all those records for the book. We had something like 5,000 shots of like every single facet of every release from around the world. So we were in a great position. But if we weren't, would have been talking about like somebody at the label just probably buying a copy off Discogs and just, you know what I mean? Just not giving it the sort of time and the care and attention. So like going through it all, we sort of matched all of the typefaces and everything. So all of the discs, aside from the albums, are kind of reimagined versions of the single covers, as you know if you've seen it. And it was a lot of work because like you're talking about taking text off where it might have said like Forever Now, but now it says like bonus tracks and things like that. And this last one was a real challenge. It was a pig to do the last one. It was yeah, because I think if nothing
to choose from, so that was the thing, Obviously, you only had 2 albums. On the others, you had 5 apiece, so and a lot more singles. So
yeah, but we had to create like an original cover for the third one. I mean, the first 2 was the logo that we did for the book, which had all of the elements of the Polydor releases. But that was great for the Polydor years, but obviously didn't apply to the third one. And people have
we
said
did try it.
We tried
with using the RCA bit, but it just didn't feel the same. So that's why
didn't work at all. Yeah, we just tried dropping the RCA elements in, and it was just awful. So props to David O'Leary again. So he and I sort of worked on that cover. I sort of gave him the logo, and we went back and forth. But like the first version that Davey sent back, I was just horrified. I was like, oh God, is this as good as it's going to get? It looked like a bauble off a Christmas tree.
yeah.
So I'm like quite like diplomatically saying to David, can we just try this? Can we just try and make it look less like a bauble? Can we just kind of yeah.
Guys are fighting a good fight for all the fans.
Yeah. And we should give a shout out to David O'Leary. And if people want to check out his work, go to smalldogstudio.co.uk for his visual art. It's really great.
Yeah.
And guys, listen, I have to say, as I said from the beginning, and I'm echoing Mikey and Winston here, you guys, because of your work, have really accentuated the legacy of Level 42 for decades of curating and producing.
Yeah.
We just owe you a huge debt, and so thank you. I really appreciate it. We all
You're here.
Yeah, pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, and obviously thank yourselves, and also for everybody who's buying and enjoying these box sets, and hopefully we can get some more releases further down the road that you'll enjoy as well.
Yeah.
Hey,
you come right on here.
Yeah.
Anytime.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
so listen,
appreciate you guys.
For Winston Walker, Mikey Payne, I am Bob Considine. We're going to leave you now, but we'll wait till you return. We'll see you next time, everybody.